It's time to spread some hate for books. That's a bad sentence. We've gone through my top 10 reads of 2022. Now it's time to talk about the books that made me question why I read in the first place. Books that made me resent having spent time and money and effort to read them. I hated these books. Let's get into it. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Neverland Book Club. I'd like to first say you don't have to watch this video. I will be bashing certain books today, and I am one who does not like hearing negative things said about books I personally enjoy. If you feel the same, maybe watch a different video. I have a ton of them up now. I normally don't like to speak negatively about books. I'm usually in the realm of, if you have nothing nice to say, then say nothing at all. Which, you know what? Screw that for today. I want to rant about these disappointments because I want to save you all from that dreaded feeling of reading a terrible book. Whether it's terribly written or a terrible story, either way, it's not fun. I want my money back. I want my time back. I want to know why some of these were in the bestsellers section of Barnes & Noble without at least being vetted by actual people who read. I'm going to sound like a terrible person in this video. Wow. Now, listen, I write. I know not everything I write is good. There are some days I question if I can even speak English. So to insult an author by saying I want my money back after purchasing their book, it hurts me, truly. To think of someone saying that about something I've put out there, it's what's been keeping me from sharing my whole life. But it's going to happen. You are going to find people out there who hate on anything and everything you can think of. You can't put yourself out there on the internet or in publishing or what have you without knowing you risk being criticized. So, suck it up? Maybe? That message is for me as much as it is for you. Maybe I just didn't get some of the books we'll be discussing today. Or maybe there was nothing to get in the first place. Again, these are just my opinions and I will not judge you or anyone for what you enjoy reading. Hell, last year I read so much smut my eyes were crossed for a whole week. That's a bad joke. I'm done trying to explain myself. Let's start with my least hated book of last year, Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Too many rules. This book was loved by so many people due to its overall message, and I get it, but honestly, I felt that message was muddled and convoluted and lost in the overflow of technicalities and rules that must be followed in order to absorb the message. This is about a time-traveling coffee shop, but it's not really. There's a single seat in the coffee shop that time travels, and it only works if you sit in that seat. But there's a ghost sitting there right now, so you have to wait for her to go to the bathroom. But you also have to drink a cup of coffee, and you can only visit people who have been to the shop before, and you can't get up from the seat, and you have to finish the cup, and ugh. No. If you're going to tell a story about a time-traveling coffee shop that helps people resolve issues with loved ones or with themselves from the past, then do that. Don't do this. This was frustrating and annoying, and I was so cross while reading, I wanted to rage quit the whole time. All of the titles I'm discussing today are no stars. Do not recommend, but again, these are but my own personal opinions. Next, we have The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. There was deception, all right. This book was a mess of trope after trope after trope that were just randomly, like, Wheel of Fortune into the story without reason. It's an enemies to lovers even though they're not really enemies, and then they're unrealistic lovers. One of my biggest gripes with this book was that it was way too long for what it was. A contemporary romance novel should not be almost 500 pages long. What are you doing? I don't know how long mine is.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, wait a second.
It's not 500 pages. It's not 500 pages. 300 to 350 pages is the sweet spot for such things. There's no world building, there's no magic system, there's no reason for you to be that long. The characters are generic and one-dimensional. The dirty talk was subpar, the romance was just about non-existent, and the tropes just kept coming and coming. See, I'd even forgive the book for all of that if it had good smut, but even that was anticlimactic. Just no. Along the same line of fire, we have Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. Now, here's the thing about dear old Ali. She bamboozled me with Love Hypothesis. She pulled the wool over my eyes at the end of 2021 when I impulsively included that title in my best reads of the year that year. Now, I won't discredit myself by saying I was wrong at the time, even though I was. It was one of the best contemporary romance novels I had read back then because it was one of the only contemporary romance novels I had read back then. But, Was I so very incredibly wrong? But here's the thing. I have a special connection to Miss Hazelwood. She is a fellow scientist, writing romance novels set in the world of science, telling stories about women in the world of science. I'm going to support her no matter what. Which is why I pre-ordered and read Love on the Brain, with the hopes that perhaps, like any good scientist, she would learn from the mistakes of her first experiment, extrapolate on the fundamental flaws she had found with her approach, and alter a few variables to acquire a more desirable outcome. But no, she didn't do any of those things. In fact, she did the one academically unforgivable thing. She plagiarized herself. Yeah, Love on the Brain and Love Hypothesis were carbon copies of one another, down to some of the dialogue in the spicy scenes. Word for word. Unforgivable. No. Will I be reading the next one she has coming out in the middle of this year? Yes, probably. I'm still going to support her solely on the basis of solidarity, but consider the bar at a hydrogen energy level low. It's 1. Hydrogen energy level is 1, so it's low. Next, and I'm just now realizing a lot of these are contemporary romance titles, but here we go. Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. On Goodreads, in the title, it reads in parentheses, if Shakespeare was an auntie, #1. And you know, I know what you're trying to do here, but that's insulting. Don't taint Shakespeare's name by having it anywhere near this disaster of a book. And yes, that was a pun, 'cause he eats her. The one thing I did enjoy about this book was the cultural elements, the auntie characters, the attempt at destigmatizing arranged matches in certain communities, and above all, the descriptions of food. That was great. But the romance, nah, didn't do it for me. The Dr. Dill character is annoying and unbelievable as a character. Her sister is the most self-centered and disrespectful little bitch that's supposed to be annoying. I get it, but it's too much. She's too stupid. And the dad is supposed to be sentimental, but also doesn't get it. Basically, no one understands our main character, and she's misunderstood and successful, but at what cost? And, ugh, no, this wasn't fun. I did not have fun. I was annoyed and then hungry. I wasn't even horny, I was just hungry. Okay, so next we have one I was hoping so much to enjoy, but clearly I didn't. Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. I read the book, I watched the movie, I did not like either experience, and I truly don't understand what the hype is with Timothy Chalamet. He's a thin sculpture boy. I'm not going to lie and say it's difficult to look at him. He's beautiful, but he has the Zoolander face. There's just only one face he makes. He's expressionless. Whenever he's on screen, I can't tell if he's acting or slowly coming out of anesthesia.
I can see it.
Right?
Yeah.
With that said, I think he was actually perfectly cast for this role in Call Me By Your Name because the protagonist is the most dull, one-dimensional, annoying, angsty character I've ever read. The whole book is pining, which I wouldn't mind if at least there was a decent bit of spice, which there isn't. He does get down with a peach, though, and it's a sad ending for the characters and the peach. With contemporary romances, there's always the guaranteed happy ending, and this didn't even have that. I'm annoyed just remembering the time I spent reading this. It had so much potential, the setting, the fashion, the vibes, the music, just wasted. It was a nice movie to look at, like when you look at a painting, but that's it. Okay, we've come to the middle mark, a book I talked about in a previous haul earlier last year and then just never spoke of again. These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. Yeah, I read it. I read it out loud sometimes to Pablo because I couldn't believe the flippant nature of what I was reading. I think what made me most upset with this book was two things in particular. One, I bought both books at the same time and now have no intention whatsoever in reading the second one. And two, this is a Romeo and Juliet retelling. Again, just because you're writing a romance, that does not mean you're William Shakespeare. The most frustrating part about reading this story was that it wasn't terrible. The story, that is. It actually had a plot. It takes place in Shanghai in the 1920s, revolving around two rivaling gangs that must come together to solve a mysterious new phenomenon sweeping the city that makes you rip your own throat out. This is Romeo and Juliet meets that one M. Night Shyamalan movie where people commit the S word due to an airborne contagion and we all collectively learned Zooey Deschanel could do serious roles, but we just prefer her when she's a quirky roommate instead. The Happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the movie I'm talking about, The Happening. There were also just so many inconsistencies during some scenes. This needed to be combed a few more times by an editor. I didn't like it. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, we have made it to the part of the video where I rant about Sally Rooney and how I will never understand why she is so popular today. Normal People was one of those books that made me feel old, to be honest. It made me feel disrespected as an elder. I wanted to smack the characters for speaking to their parents the way they were speaking to their parents. I wanted to smack the girl for having no self-respect in the end. I wanted to yell at this generation for spontaneously deciding that punctuation and grammar is unnecessary when writing a damn book. I don't know who decided it, but I'm seeing it more and more now, where writers are just not using the proper punctuation for dialogue in particular. But some books don't even have punctuation at all, or they disregard capitalization or indentations or sentence structure or anything that makes the English language so damn beautiful other than the words themselves. I'm sorry, but I've always felt like that agoraphobic aunt in a series of unfortunate events for more than one reason. Grammar is one of the greatest joys in life, as she says. It's what makes your language, whatever that language may be, so much more intricate and complex. And if you're going to commit to writing a book in one language or another, maybe have the respect to follow the agreed upon structure so we all can enjoy the content of your book rather than trying to distract us with your silly attempt at being different. There are just three more, and I promise I'll stop being so mean. Okay, next we have, oh God, Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Batsurica. This book is horrendous. I hated every minute of reading it, and I felt it had zero redeeming qualities. I felt absolutely nothing for any of the characters, and one of the characters was actual livestock. The world presented in this novel is one of absolute absurdity. All meat is considered inedible due to some ambiguous virus, and the human population has to resort to cannibalism. Consumerism. Cannibalism. You know, for a book that promotes veganism, you're not promoting veganism as an alternative to eating animal products. This book shoves the afterthought of veganism down your throat so hard it makes you want to just come back around full circle and read it while eating a burger just out of spite. Not good, bad book, bad characters, bad writing, bad story, shock and gore for shock value. What little storyline it does have is stupid and cringy, and I hated the whole thing.
Remember Lily's play?
Oh my God.
It's you. Consumerism.
Consumerism. I think These Violent Delights is considered fantasy, but so is this one. What Lies Beyond the Veil? One of my biggest disappointments of last year, and I cannot for the life of me remember what this book was about. There's a veil. It shatters. There's fated mates and a girl who isn't like other girls, and they're in the forest, and it's all predictable, and it did not make me want to continue reading fantasy. Books like this is why fantasy romance gets such a bad rap. It's bad. It's so bad. I don't even have too much to say about it really, other than don't waste your time or money. I think the title upset me the most because we never go beyond the veil, so we don't know what lies beyond it. Apparently they do in the second book, but there's no way I'm reading that, so I guess I'll just never know. And that's just fine with me. 0 stars. All right, here we go. Drum roll, please. The #1 worst book I read in 2022, and yes, I read every single page of this 654-page mess of a plotless novel. Go ahead and pause this video now. Take a wild guess. Ouch.
Really? But you enjoyed it.
I know, hold on. Back, okay. Den of Vipers by K.A. Knight. Not only one of the worst books I read last year, but what I believe is one of the worst books written ever. But what makes me most upset about this title is that I get it. I can't sit here and say, oh, I just don't understand why people like this book. No, I understand. I understand completely. This is garbage. It's trash. And sometimes, just sometimes, us little reading raccoons like to roll around in the filth. I can't tell you what this book is about because it's about nothing. It's 654 pages of smut. Violent, dark, reverse harem smut that will make you go, okay, 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 all right, okay, okay, all right. And then you put it down and step away and feel your mind start to mold back to its original shape after being melted into soup inside your head. It was an experience, is what I'm trying to say. Do I recommend the experience? No, absolutely not. Will I judge you for liking this book? Yes. A little. But also no, because I'm not into kink shaming. I'm just into kink. It's not a good book, but it's okay for what it is. And that's porn. So those were my top 10 worst books, but I do have some honorable mentions to mention. They are both smut, so you've been warned. First is The Beast by Jenica Snow. This was my introduction to smut, and though it was terrible and disgusting and I questioned my life choices every minute, it didn't make me want to stop reading smut. It compelled me to go forth and discover good smut, which I did. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling where the Beast remains in his beast form for the entirety of the book, and you don't need to use your imagination because it's exactly what you think. It's bestiality. And again, bestiality is the second book. We have another smut title, including a non-human love interest. The Dragon Bride by Katie Robert. I will say though, Katie Robert is now like one of my favorite smutty authors. She's fantastic, and I hope she gets better soon because I hear she's not doing very well. She had to cancel her book tour. I follow her on Twitter. It's great.
She has a smut book tour?
Well, no, she has a book tour, but she writes mostly smut. Anyway, back to the dragon of The Dragon's Bride. He has 2 appendages, and he's a dragon who's big on consent. It's sweet and weird, but mostly sweet. But it's... Maybe I don't need to mention this one, because did I like it? I don't think I wanted to like it, because it's about a dragon with 2 eggplants. And I want to be better than that. Okay, those are my titles. I haven't done one of these worst books of the year videos before, but I have done the reverse, and honestly, these are the most fun. Looking back on my reading year and seeing all the highs and lows and coming up with a list of best and worst. It's fun. I've had fun. That's all I have for y'all today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you're not. Today's shout out goes to Vaughn Maddox. Yes, the more people I can convince to read The Starless Sea or The Night Circus, the better. So happy to have you here. Thank you so much for your comment. I truly hope you enjoy the journey of reading Morgenstern as I had. Oh, what I'd give to be able to read her books again for the first time. All right, I'm off to go rummage through the rubbish like a little reading raccoon and find more trash to not recommend. Stay lost. Keep reading. Goodbye.